This time I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We will start with item B1. Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Cabinet, and our community this evening. I will turn this item over to Dr. Croto as he was going to introduce for us a couple of our middle-level athletic champions, and I would like to invite the board to join me on the steps to recognize these outstanding athletes.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Madam President, members of the board, Cabinet, guests, it's our pleasure tonight to introduce, like Dr. Dean said, some middle-level athletic champions. First, our girls volleyball from Kingswood. We'd like to offer them to come on up front, get a picture. They Kingswood coach. Awesome round of applause. They are coached by Renee Puig-Hink, and they are the middle school level champions this year, so great job. Why the parents are snapping. Again, a round of applause for Kingswood girls volleyball. Great job. Next up for middle level athletic champions is West Point for flag football. So come on up. West Point is coached by Austin Pechtel, so congratulations. Looks like they brought some trophies with them too, so great job, gentlemen. Awesome job. Congratulations, West Point flag football. Great job, great season. Don't leave yet. We have a few more pictures. All right, congratulations. Great job. Madam President, that concludes our presentations.
All right, next we will move on to audience with individuals. Do we have any this evening? Okay, Ms. Densmore.
We do. This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on this agenda pursuant to ARS 38431.01. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. In order to facilitate accomplishing the business of the district in a timely manner, a time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed before each individual or group addressing the board. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. And first, we have Mr. Dave Marsh.
Hello, my name is Dave Marsh. I live over by Asani Preparatory Academy, about a mile from there. I just was wondering what the difference between governing a preparatory academy versus a traditional school. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam President, Mr. Marsh, we will ask Dr. Asai to contact you and provide the information for you. Thank you.
Next, we have Janet LeBlanc.
Good evening. My name is Janet LeBlanc, a taxpayer in the Dysart District. I would like to ask what Fund 610 funds are used for that are listed in the consent agenda item of F10 within the expense vouchers entitled Unrestricted Capital Outlay. Now, in respect to the recent Arizona Family 3 news clip regarding Dysart requiring teachers to check a box stating that they will not attend any CRT, critical race theory, or SEL, social emotional learning sessions when attending conferences that are paid for by tax dollars, I applaud the district. If teachers say they just want to be trusted yet are upset about this policy, one can't help but question their reasons for being upset other than that they must desire to attend these specific sessions. When you think about it, if a person does not care whether or not they attend CRT or SEL sessions, why would they be upset when they are told not to attend them? That's double standard thinking. It's also a shame the media continues to play on the negative of double standard thinkers by taking such a positive action made by the district on behalf of the children and turning it into a negative finger-pointing issue. Shame on them for twisting truth into lies to fit their narrative. Please don't listen to them. Don't listen to their lies, and know that each of you are doing a great job looking out for the best interests of the children that are under your charge, and I thank you. I thank you as a parent, as a grandparent, as a taxpayer, and as a constituent. Thank you for being the district willing to step up and set a good example of true leadership. Thank you.
And Madam President, members of the board, we'll ask Mr. Hicks to follow with Ms. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Next, we have Mr. Larry LeBlanc.
Good evening. My name is Larry LeBlanc. I would like to spin right off of what Janet discussed. This is a special note to the educators in the United States of America education system. I have said this before to all educators. Janet and I are your biggest supporters. To all educators with a solid moral compass and a dedication to share sound learning techniques, congratulations and thank you for carrying the torch and upholding the guidelines as described in ARS 15-203, item 25. To the issue of checking a box in agreement not to attend negative teachings, what educator of the above-mentioned qualities would not initial this box? Let's get technical about the magic box. ARS 15-717.02 clearly outlines the do-nots of attending any CRT training. It is against the law to attend any training of the sort. So technically, this box is not required, but it is a great reminder. Thank you, board and superintendents. Your form with the magic box is excellent. God bless America.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Johnny Melton.
Tough to follow. Good evening, members of the board. Good evening, admin, and Dr. Dean, good evening. My name is Johnny Melton. I'm a in Litchfield Manor. Both my kids are out of Dysart now. They've gone away, but still in the district, and I'm still rooting for you guys. This has been, you guys have been a great board, and I've been watching this over the years, and I've been very proud of everything you've done. You've gone through some tough times. There's been a lot of angry and intense moments in this room, but you've always managed to get through, and we've done good things. And I've said before, I'm going to miss you. Dr. Dean, you were a blessing to us. Thank you for serving when you can, and I wish you the best of luck in your next endeavor. I just want you guys, I'm going to repeat what was said before. There's headlines come up, right? Had the headlines come up. The public doesn't really get to hear both sides, but you weather through it and stay true to governing in the way the public, this community expects you to govern. And so I really thank you. I'll yield the rest of my time, and I look forward to watching what happens the next few years here. So, all right, thank you.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to D1, Superintendent Update. Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Cabinet, and our community this evening. Just 4 quick things. I think 4, but I might think of a couple more as we go through. State testing is completed, and kudos to our students and our staff for all the hard work during the course of this school year. Somebody told me today that we have 19 days of school left, and so I'm not sure when that happened, but parents, just a heads up, it's going to be on you here shortly. So, we're looking forward to finishing well, both our staff and students, with the remainder of the school year. We are very excited to announce to our public and to the governing board that this year we set a new record for the number of art seals that our graduating seniors earned with the state of Arizona. This year, our seniors earned 138 art seals with the state. That is the second highest amount of art seals of any school district in the state of Arizona. We're incredibly proud of our outstanding art students, and thank you very much to each of them. As the board is aware, our 3 A's are academics, arts, and athletics. Speaking of athletics, the state playoffs have begun for the spring season, and our schools are very well represented. And we look forward to a great playoff run by several of our teams and athletes. And I would love to speak a little further about that, but I'm a little superstitious and I don't want to jinx anything. So we look forward to our athletes doing quite well in the playoffs. And then finally this evening, just a reminder to the board and an announcement to our public that high school graduation is right around the corner, and that's scheduled for Monday, May 22nd, and that's at State Farm Stadium. And I want to let the board know that we'll be sending out all the specifics of that in the next couple of weeks. And Madam President, that concludes my update.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. We will move to item D2, Governing Board Update.
Well, as you all know, this is the time of year that we do a whole lot of celebrating. Of course, we just celebrated some middle school sports. I attended the Dysart Heroes Award ceremony, and congratulations to all the heroes. Thank you for what you do in the district every single day. Really appreciate it. I also attended the Dysart Education Foundation dinner, and where 17 students received scholarships, and their stories were really amazing. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they do in the future, because they all come back and they give you updates. And then last night we celebrated more students with the DSB Live Awards, and I'm really disappointed they took down the decorations, because it would have been fun for everybody to see and enjoy those as well. That's it.
I attended. I had a very busy week. I attended, on the 14th, I attended Freedom's Family Bingo Night, which was an absolute blast, seeing all the kids get excited when they filled up their little cards. We did win 2 prizes, so I'm excited. I also attended the Dysart Hero Awards. Congrats to everyone that received them, well deserved. Then I also attended a 3-day school safety summit down at the Glendale Civic Center. Very, very informative, learned a lot. The safety of our students, staff, district, extremely important. Took a lot of information from there, great information. And then I also attended the Dysart Student Broadcasting Awards with Miss Jo Grant and Miss Densmore last night. Had an absolute blast. All 4 high schools are doing a tremendous job with our broadcasting. So kudos to all the award winners. Very proud of all of our students and the hard work and dedication that went into everything that they achieved. So thank you.
I also attended the Dysart Hero Award ceremony. In addition to my deep appreciation for all of our heroes and nominees, I especially want to thank Dr. Dean for always making these events very warm, inviting, and absolutely entertaining. If you've never seen him punch a stack of balloons, you're missing out. Last night, I also attended the Dysart Broadcasting Services Awards. It was an incredible night, and it was an honor just watching all of our highly talented students and staff. One theme that was consistently heard throughout the night was family. And finding that group, club, tribe in these formative high school years is a truly powerful key to a successful student, graduate, and well-rounded adult. I also attended the 3-day safety summit in Glendale. There were just so many good presentations and speakers, including members of the Secret Service, FBI Field Office, Maricopa County Sheriff Penzone, even our Attorney General, Chris Mays. And it was important to me that she mentioned her campaign promise to prosecute those who threaten school board members and any elected official. Also was privileged to hear from Parkland parent Max Schachter. He's the father of Alex Schachter, who was murdered in English class during the Parkland massacre. And now he devotes his life to making schools safe. And my big takeaway from this, not the only one, but the bigger one, is that safety really is everyone's job. And I can tell you from sitting at a table with Dysart staff with varying roles and responsibilities, with everyone nodding their heads in agreement, the empathy, the sadness at the stories of loss, the tears during stories of survival, and just with a full understanding of what we are doing right, as well as identifying solutions to new challenges and opportunities to strengthen some features. We are fully committed to an ever-evolving and comprehensive approach in keeping Dysart schools safe. That's all I have.
I think it's becoming the time of the year where we all just probably start saying ditto. But this time last week, I also attended the Dysart Hero Award ceremony, and it's always a pleasure. And one of my favorite pieces is hearing the little bios or just the memories of the individuals that submitted the nomination and their thoughts about the person. And it just, listening to those stories and then seeing the individual stand there right before they get their award and seeing either tears well up in their eyes or just watching them as they're impacted by those words just kind of reminded me that everybody has a story that we don't always see. And those last 3 years have been hard, and this year is I think our first semi-normal year. And just remembering, everything that everybody brings to the table, and that despite any personal challenges or what they may be carrying personally, they still come to school every day and give their absolute best and their heart into everything that they do for our children. And just really appreciate all of our heroes, all of our teachers and staff. But just it was nice to honor those individuals last week, and congratulations again. It was nice to share the evening with you. That's it.
Ditto. I was also able to attend the Dysart Heroes Award ceremony, and it's always a pleasure to shake every recipient's hand and tell them congratulations, because we mean it. So thank you to all our heroes and all of our staff for showing up and doing your best every day to give our kids a top-notch education. So thank you. Next, we will move on to item E1. I make the motion to approve consent agenda items as presented. Second. Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Christine Pritchard.
Information to our governing board and have them have an opportunity to hear from our school principals. This evening, we will ask Dr. Asai and Dr. Croto to introduce the school CIPs. Just a reminder of the structure to our governing board. Both Dr. Croto and Dr. Asai's position supervise all of our principals, and Dr. Asai supervises our kindergarten through 8th grade schools, and Dr. Croto supervises our high schools and our middle schools and Asante Preparatory Academy. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to, I believe, Dr. Asai. She'll introduce the first two, and then Dr. Croto will introduce the third one. Dr. Asai.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. It is my pleasure to introduce our first school to present their CIP, and that is Countryside, presented by Principal Chantel McNeese.
Of the board, Dr. Dean and Cabinet. My name is Chantel McNeese, and I'm very honored to be the new principal at Countryside Elementary School. And it's my pleasure tonight to share with you some successes and some opportunities from this 22-23 school year. So getting started. All right. Getting started, we are, for some
I have to tell you that Miss McNeese could probably talk for 7 to 8 hours about Countryside and her excitement in what they're doing. But her commitment to really becoming a community-based school is so evident that she's taken the little piece of grass in the front of Countryside and made it into a front yard. And she'll decorate the front yard of the school throughout the year with different themes. And matter of fact, last summer when we went to visit, she had a sprinkler that she brought in that she had going back and forth because she didn't think it was getting enough water. And so we made sure Mr. Hicks was not aware of that and the extra water that was being used. But Ms. McNeese has done a tremendous job of working to really build a community-based school, and I want to congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. And don't tell, but the sprinkler has been going this week. There was a little dry patch that I'm like, we got to green that up. Yeah. Any questions?
I know you mentioned it being a challenge to be new leadership and how that impacts culture, but I can tell you I appreciate your positivity, and I think that's going to have a great impact on the school. So I welcome that change. I think that's I can just tell in the way you present that you're a very positive influence for the school, and I'm sure they're very happy to have you. Just curious, so you mentioned a lot of Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, RTI. Is there anything, because you referenced some great growth that's already happened, is there anything in particular in those Tier 1, Tier 2 interventions that you found was the most helpful, or what are you utilizing exactly to make that happen?
Small group instruction and knowing our kids, really digging deep into knowing where our kids are at when they come to us and identifying where the gaps are, and then implementing that into that small group instruction in both Tier 1 and Tier 2. And then we are also working closely with our Tier 3 instructors as well to make sure that they are getting the practice in that skill 3 times a day if needs be.
Thank you. Ken, don't listen to this. Thank you, Dr. Dean, for mentioning that she's watering the grass there. I think it's very important to water the grass to be able to grow.
Yes.
I like that you've had the growth anywhere from 5 to 15%. That's huge. Thank you. I'm really happy to hear that you have Valley Vista students tutoring. That has been such a missed opportunity, I think, in some of our schools that are at least physically close by. So thank you so much for doing that. I think that's a really good opportunity, not just for Countryside kids, but also for our high school students that might even, want to be teachers after that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a joy to work with them, and some of them even attended Countryside, so it's really fun to have them back.
Yeah, that's perfect. Full circle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, members of the board, our next presentation will be from Mountain View, Principal Debbie Cruz.
Good evening. I'm just going to adjust for a moment. Okay. All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cabinet, and community. Thank you so much for allowing me to present all the great things we're doing at Mountain View. I'm very excited. I am new to Mountain View as well this year. So we're going to dig right in. I'm going to make sure I know how to do this. Oh, off. Oh. Okay. All right. It's hooking up. There we go. So we have many things was our campus becoming a data-focused campus, and that was district-wide. I'm sorry, school-wide. We really wanted to dig into our data, not only as a leadership team, but also with our teachers. So we planned monthly team data meetings where we would really dig into the data and look where each and every student was and how do we support them and what are our next steps for them. This also fed into our student attendance contract because we too were seeing some of those challenges. So a success for us and a celebration for us was for our parent-teacher conferences to sit down with our parents and talk to them. 5 or more absenteeism is at that point. What's our plan? What do we want to do next to ensure our kids are at school, because we know that's vital for them to learn. We also dug into the RTI process, and I do want to thank our district leadership for guidance on that. That was new for me, and I really do enjoy it. It's very systematic and working with our teams to really dig into each and every student that needs support for Tier 2, Tier 3, and dig down and say, what are we doing? Do we need to get them into the nurse's office? Do they need to have that health screening? Do we need to talk about attendance? Do we need to look at that Tier 1 academic and really dig specifically down to each child? Also, moving our PLC teams to really focus on the 4 critical questions and really using those questions to drive some of the work that we're going to do, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes. Another big success for us is celebrations. We needed to celebrate our students. So we put into effect Student of the Month celebrations. We are celebrating academic success, attendance success, as well as student leader success each and every month, and inviting our families in. And we have a huge crowd, so I'm very excited about that. It's always nice to have our families at the school. A big success for us, because as I came in, I asked a lot of questions. I said, what are things that we can do to improve our school? What can we do? It was attendance. We heard a lot about attendance. We really have an awesome full-time guest teacher that is at school every single day. And this is a celebration because it creates that consistency and all the students know this person. So if we have one of our teachers out, this person can step in, continue that instruction, and that it really empowers our whole campus. Consistent guest teachers too. When we have openings, we're getting people to fill them because we want that learning to go on for our students each and every day. And one of those other things I love to celebrate, so we have an MVS Perfect Attendance Unicorn. Our staff members' names go in there, they get chosen, they get a little mini unicorn because we want to celebrate being here because we know if they're there, our students are learning each and every day with that teacher. So overall general challenges. First thing I know was mentioned already from my predecessor is that basically being new. I needed to learn the systems, I needed to learn the district, but the biggest things I would see coming in is getting our teams together in blocks of time for planning and really digging down into the standards, the instruction, and the assessment. That teaching and learning cycle with our teams and going deeper because we had a lot of new team members as well. We had continuing, but we also had new. Collaborative teams, looking at being data focused at all times, using those 4 critical questions, and really taking our PLC teams back to being focused on the 4 critical questions and using an agenda to drive that to ensure that we're always thinking about the data, always thinking about where we're taking our students next. Successes. Well, we have a lot of successes I'm super excited about. Overall, one of the biggest things we looked at is we really were tracking our student data. So I showed you Arcadians here. Arcadians data is very similar to Dibbles. So if you're used to Dibbles, it's the same thing. But you can see from the 21 to 22 school year in comparison to the 22-23 school year, our middle of the year, we are maintaining or we are growing. We have a few small gaps, which we are addressing in Tier 2 and Tier 3, but our numbers are higher mid-year, which is awesome for us because it's showing us that that's continuing. It's not falling as far as it had in the past. Our benchmark at the bottom for ELA and math, all the gold areas is showing you that we were at or above district average, and the areas that are not are the areas that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. So the areas of academic challenges for us is really 3rd, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, as well as 8th grade ELA. And what we found in many of these areas is deficits in foundational skills. Our 3rd grade students are students where that COVID year hit. They had a lot of online learning. Therefore, they have a lot of deficits. They have a lot of attendance too, because they just didn't get that foundation. They weren't in school during that time. 8th grade, we really looked at what is our most important, or what is the deficit we're seeing most, and I'm gonna go into this more. But 8th grade, really, it was talking about taking them to independent practice. They were doing great with the guided, but when we got to independent and they had to show that performance on their own, we were noticing they weren't performing at that level. So how are we gonna work on these challenges? We have a lot of ways, a lot of things we're doing. When we think about the areas of math, some of the biggest things we talked about was professional development and coaching. working with the district hand in hand, as well as our TLS on campus. We brought in also IXL Math as a tier 2 in those grade levels, and then brought that team together, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, and specifically talked about how are we going to use this program in a tier 2? What does it look like and sound like? Which students would be using that material and why? How does it align to the scope and sequence? So be very strategic in how we're using that information and that product. For team planning, we brought them together. We also did IXL PD, and then we really took them back down into the focus. Now, we know the students have deficits. How does that also feed into tier 2? Because we know we can departmentalize when we get into those grade levels, so we don't have to always just specifically be one content area. How can we provide both? We also brought in Mountain Math. Mountain Math is a spiral review that they do daily with the students. It builds those foundational skills, the automaticity of multiplication, the things that they need as they get into the higher mathematics, and the professional development support with alignment to AASA. We really dug into how does ASAA mastery look and how are we teaching? So we have to make sure we have to plan with the end in mind if we know we want our students to be successful. So we did that through the item specifications as well as the performance level descriptors. So that was quite a bit of work that we're still digging into because it's pretty deep. So we're going to continue that as we move into next year. 3rd grade, we did something a little bit more. We actually reached out to district and worked with Dana, and we asked her, hey, who out there has some stellar classrooms that we could take our teachers to? So our TLS whisper coached and took out some of our teachers to another campus, showed them some great math, and whisper coaching is when the coach is next to them, hey, what do you see? What do you notice? Can we do this in our classrooms? What is that small group doing? What are those students doing over there? And really showing them that fishbowl effect of what it could look like and sound like. For 8th grade ELA, I know I talked a little bit about taking them to that independent practice, but a big part of this also was creating common formative assessments. So our TLS really supported our 8th grade ELA with that, and then working hand in hand with ELA and social studies together, because then we could get 2 bang for our buck in 2 different content areas. And then we also were a part of the literacy leadership team, which was pretty phenomenal for both of those ladies. We also brought in Mountain Math. Again, we brought that in K-8, but we really needed it. We really saw a need for it in 8th grade. And at this time, if you have any questions, I know that was a lot.
And as you can see from Ms. Cruz's presentation, there's a lot of stuff happening at Mountain View. A lot of things. So
That's only a little bit.
I know that's a little bit of it, but yeah, great job. Thank you.
That's exactly what my feedback was going to be, is that you can tell you're just so involved and really digging deeper into things and very reflective within the whole process too. I really appreciate that because that's what's going to drive the change that we're wanting to see. And there, as you've shown in the graph, there's already been some signs of some improvement. So thank you so much, and continue to reflect as you're doing, because that's amazing. Good job.
And I want to say thank you because it takes a team, and our district is phenomenal. I'm a very happy leader with leaders that are wonderful in our district, and our teachers are phenomenal too. So thank you. But it takes team. It's not just me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Madam President and members of the board, our final CIP presentation this evening comes from Dysart High School and Principal Ms. Sunny Resch.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, cabinet, and Dr. Dean. It's my pleasure to present some strengths and challenges of Dysart High School. So some challenges we have. One thing we noticed last year is that although we had great growth, our EL population wasn't moving at the rate at which we wanted them to be moving. So we really looked at our EL instruction, and we were able to get a pretty phenomenal EL teacher this year. And he has really worked on the instructional pieces in our EL classroom. So he started by ensuring that we are teaching grade level standards to each of our EL kids in their English class. So they're getting their 9th, 10th grade, 11th grade standards in there, but he has scaffolded things so well for each of the individual students in order for them to get there. So we really pushed kids. We had really high expectations in the EL classes, and I just cannot wait to see the EL score, the Zella scores when they come out, because I have a feeling we're going to have a good rate of students reclassifying this year, which is a huge kudos for us. So we're really excited to see those results. The other thing we started this year is we noticed last year that our athletes continuously ended up being ineligible. They kept having issues with their academic progress. So we started an academic Demon Pride Hour after school. I'm sure you guys have seen at Dysart High School, we have Demon Pride posters everywhere. So our mantra is Demon Pride runs campus-wide. And so our P is like prepare to learn. Our R is respect self and others. Our I is in the right place at the right time. D is demonstrating respectful behavior. And E is expect success. So when we do tutoring, we're working on that E. We expect success, so we're gonna put supports and things in place to help you be successful. So we added that hour of tutoring for athletes. So it was mandatory, whether they're passing or not, because everybody has skills and things that they need to work on, and we're a team, and we're gonna work on them as a team, and then we're gonna go practice. So they did it an hour before their practice could start, so coaches couldn't start practice or anything. We did see some success with it. We did see some areas that we definitely can improve on for next year, which we will, but that was definitely a great addition to the campus this year. The other area of growth is our art. As was mentioned earlier, we did have an increase in art sales, which is amazing. We're so thrilled that our students are having a great time with art and doing well with it, and they've created some beautiful portfolios. So we went from 8 to 13 sales, so not a huge amount, but it's growth for us. And so next year we are teaming up with Dysart Middle. We have that choir teacher coming over with the 8th grade students, and we're gonna build our choir program, as well as we made some changes in our theater program, and then our art, our ceramics and painting, those sections are all up next year. We actually went from 2 teachers and a part-time person to 3 full-time teachers for next year. So pretty excited to see what's gonna happen in the arts again next year. The other thing that we're grateful for are all the additions to our athletic fields. So next year, we definitely invite you guys to come out to our new turf field or to our gym and support our students on these beautiful facilities. We can't wait to see them finish. So another thing that we're really excited about. Some challenges that we're facing. We do have a high number of students that are in need of Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. Unfortunately, our students are coming in below proficiency. So for example, our current 9th grade class, when they entered 9th grade this year, we only had 20% that were proficient in English and 22% that were proficient in math. So that puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball. So we do have challenges in terms of, okay, so how do we meet the needs of students? And so we really have to scaffold for our students. So we really have to work hard to stay on the pacing guide for the district as well as provide supports for students. And so that's a challenge for us, but we try to meet that each and every day for our students. The other concern we have, or challenge we have, is the high absentee rate. First semester, we had 18% of our students who missed 18 or more days of school. And it's important that kids are in school. This semester, we're already at 17% of our population that's missed 18 or more days of school. If they are here, we can grow them. We can move them. We just got to get them to come to school more often for us. So we're working on some of those pieces to see what else we can do to get students to come to school on a regular basis. Because when we start talking about our academic data, you'll see in a minute, we can move them if they will come. So some academic success. We had some huge growth from benchmark 1 to benchmark 3. Because again, our kids come in a little lower, so we are definitely scaffolding and pushing and pushing and pushing. And so benchmark 1 is kind of early in the school year, and benchmark 3 is later in the school year. So when you look at our English data, I do apologize, let me. In terms of 9th grade, we went from a scale score of 9.63 at the beginning of the year to a scale score of 13.96. And so those are ACT indicator scale scores. And then our math only went from 11.63 to 12.12, but if everybody remembers, we did roll out our brand new math adoption. And so obviously we're learning the new math adoption. We're dealing with those little growing pains, but the good news is we still have growth. So we didn't go backwards, even though we rolled out a brand new, different way of teaching for teachers and different way of learning for students. So kudos that we still got growth out of them. And in our 11th grade, their scale score in English was 12.39 at the beginning of the year, and it went to 16.83 at benchmark And then the math went from 15.35 to 16.13. So again, we have growth. And I know the ACT data is unofficial at this time, but when you look at our ACT data that is unofficial and rolling in, we have growth in ACT this year. So we're super excited that we have growth in both, we have growth in ELA, and math kind of stays stagnant, which is expected with the math rollout, and then science increased as well. And so therefore our overall composite score has gone up as well. But not only that, when you break it down by skill score bands, our kids that are minimally proficient compared from last year to this year, we had 10% of our population move over, meaning we had 10% less kids performing in minimally proficient than last year. And we did the same thing in proficient. We went up 10% in our proficient scores. So we have 10% more kids this year scoring in the proficient range than we did last year. So great growth there. We're very excited. We can't wait for it to become official so we can share out all the great things that we had going on. And so when we look at that, the whole reason we're having growth on the benchmark, part of that is Achieve 3000. I don't know if you guys are really familiar with Achieve 3000. Achieve 3000 in terms of English is just a great program. I really wish we had something similar to it that worked at the level that the English does for math. But when you look at it, our Lexile growth, in 9th grade we had a 10% increase, and in 11th grade we had 11% increase in their Lexile scores using Achieve 3000. And we use Achieve 3000 in English, whether it's ELL English or regular English, social studies, and science. And so those, all the readings are embedded in the program already. So we're using state standard ones, all approved ones. And then we make sure that in science, they're reading science type articles, but still using the same skills, still practicing the same thing that they're doing in English. They're just looking at a science related article. So we're doing that across the board with those. And so next year, what I'm doing is we are not gonna offer social studies to freshmen, because since they take a test their junior year, I want them to have more practice with Achieve 3000 the year they are testing. So we've pushed, so we're in alignment with the rest of the district. We will have social studies 10, 11, 12 like the rest of the district starting next year. We were off because of Cambridge, but since we're not doing Cambridge, we're gonna go back to the normal sequence so our kids can have that Achieve 3000 their junior year when they're involved with state testing, so that we can give them some more supports. Some of our academic challenges, again, because we have a high number of students that are coming that are below proficient, so our goal, our main goal is to get growth out of them. Can we push them? We would love for them all to be proficient, but if we can't, we want to get as much growth as we can out of the students. And so we deal with those things, but we try to overcome them. The other thing we have, again, is the high absentee rates, because again, if they're not here, it's really hard for me to educate them. But when they come, our teachers are here, they accept them, doesn't matter how many days you've been absent. Today, we're gonna figure out what we can do and see if we can fill in some of those gaps that you're missing. And then the last challenge we face is student motivation. So we know that when kids are not successful in school, they don't love school. So what we do is we try to find different ways to motivate them. How do we, when you are here, how do we get the best from you? So you have to celebrate success. And what success looks for one doesn't necessarily look like for all. And so sometimes it is that you came to school today, that you completed work today. And it might be that, hey, you didn't do well in the last test, but now this time you did. So that's success for that particular student. And so we really have to make sure we're celebrating those individual success and making sure our lessons are engaging so that our kids are motivated and want to come to school. So how are we working on these challenges? The first thing we have to do is we have to tighten up our Tier 1 instruction, because our kids need Tier 2 and Tier 3 as well. So we have to tighten up that Tier 1 instruction. So our main focus right now is to get as good at small groups as elementary schools and middle schools. Because that's not natural for high school teachers, but we're working on making sure we're running some small groups with our instruction. The other thing we really are working on with our high school teachers is not waiting to mid-modules or module tests, units, modules, chapters, whatever you want to call them. They need to be doing checks for understanding throughout their lessons, and they need to respond to that data. So we worked hard on making sure that Tier 1 instruction includes checks for understanding, and then are they really responding to the check for understanding so that we can help kids along the way. The other thing we're working on is definitely our Demon Pride Hour. We started that this year. We've had some good success, but we are revamping it a little bit for next year so we can have even better results, because our goal is for no athlete to be ineligible. That is the goal. We're going to continue using Achieve 2000 in English, Science, and Social Studies because we're getting great results from it. And our ACT scores, when they become official and you see them, you'll notice we had great growth in English. Very, very good results in English. So, and then next year, what I'm doing is I'm creating a Frosh experience class. We're not going to label it as any type of support class or anything like that, because as soon as a student hears I'm in a support class, their motivation dies on me. So we are going to call it Frosh Experience. We are going to do some ELA focus and some math focus, and we're going to use Actively Learn. And Actively Learn is a program within Achieve 3000. But it would be different articles they're reading, because the whole goal of Actively Learn is that it's teaching them critical reading skills. And so they do a little bit of reading, they do a little bit of answering questions, and then they do academic conversation about what they just read about. So that's kind of what Actively Learn is. And then in math, we're going to use IXL because some of the schools in the district that are already using it are having great success with it. So we are going to use it as well for a Tier 2 for our Frosh Experience class. And so they'll get some organizational skills. They'll get some transitional pieces, like how do we go from middle school to high school? They'll get some academic support, and then they're going to get some just fun activities and things like that so that they understand that school is a fun place to be, because we're going to target our bottom 25% so that we can build those gaps that they're missing, so that we can get them back where they need to be. The last thing we're doing is we are looking for new hires that understand that teaching at a title school is a very important job. We have great kids, and they need you. They need you each and every day. And so we look every day for new hires that want to come and they fit our vision at Dysart High School, because we know our kids need the best. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have.
And Madam President, before we get to questions, I have to just stop and just say that the three principals that you heard from this evening are reflective of the outstanding leadership that we have in our schools. And we are proud to work alongside them. And I hope that you're hearing the amount of hard work that's going into each building. These are outstanding educators, and we're pleased to work with them. So, Ms. Resch, thank you as well.
Thank you.
I just want to echo what Dr. Dean had mentioned. Again, thank you for all the obvious hard work and dedication that you and your team are putting into the growth that you kind of gave us a sneak peek to, so I appreciate that. Just curious, you mentioned that your ninth graders are coming in low and you're addressing that through Tier 1, Tier 2 scaffolding, but is there anything specifically that you are finding either has worked well with like your sophomore class or in previous, and even just like your cohorts or whatever, to kind of give you an idea of what you may be able to do to help them catch up from the deficits they're coming in with?
So definitely in our 9th, 10th, and 11th, and we actually use Achieve in our 12th grade as well, we have found that Achieve 3000 in terms of English skills and getting them on grade level is a great Tier 2 support that we use. We have not found that great piece in math, and that's why we're going to the IXL math, because some of our feeders are using it and they're having great results with it. So that's why we're going to try it with math and see if we can get those same results. But in terms of English, Achieve 3000, and then I have 3 academic interventionists that also pull for Tier 2 and Tier 3 as well. And then they also do some push-in. So if teachers are struggling with small group, my academic interventionists will push in, show them how to run a small group, sometimes run that small group for them if they're doing something else with the rest of the class that they need to be directly doing. And so we use them as well to help with those Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports.
Okay, and then also, so the Pride Hour, just so I understand, is that mandatory for all your athletes?
So we do, yes, so that first hour, that's where they can complete homework. They can go to another teacher for tutoring, but they have to have a pass that says that I'm going to this teacher for tutoring. So yes, that first hour is a mandatory tutoring for all the students. And if they have everything done, they are one of the best tutors I could ever have. So we use them then to help tutor the students that are sitting in there that need help with whatever they do. So yes, that first hour is, and then they go to practice right after that hour.
Have you had any pushback from that at all, from parents or athletes?
Not really.
Okay, that's wonderful because, I mean, sometimes the athletics is the only thing that keeps some of our students in school. So to ensure that they're still eligible just by implementing something like that is a great strategy. So thank you for all that you do.
And hopefully they don't start. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our principals. Next, we will move on to item G2. Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, cabinet, and our community. You know, I'm finishing year 18 in the school district, and as you're aware, this is my final year in the district, so I thought I would take this time to provide a summary of successes in the last 18 years. So get comfortable, we're going to be here a while.
And with that, we will take a 4-hour recess. We will see you tomorrow, Dr. Dean. Thank you.
Absolutely. Madam President and members of the board, as you know, we have presented information to the governing board throughout the course of the year on our success and our measures towards goals. And so this evening, my year-end goal report is going to be perhaps shorter than others in the past because we've provided so much information to the governing board throughout the course of the year that we're going to just use this as a summary this evening. And so with that, if we could get the next slide, that would be great. The first goal that we established with the governing board this year was to increase academic achievement throughout the district by increasing accountability and a comprehensive review of our programs. This evening, you heard 3 of our principals present CIPs, I think, in a manner that you may not have heard in the past, which reflects increased accountability. You heard specific information from our principals in terms of what they are doing specifically in intervention, specifically what they're doing with programs, and how deeply embedded they are with their staff in looking at data. And that is hugely attributed to our data chats with our principals. And the 2 goal areas that we had set in the academic area is that by the end of the 22-23 school year, which is now, we wanted to increase academic accountability, that all of our principals would participate in a series of 3 data chats with me and their assistant superintendent. And those data chats are designed to make adjustments to our instructional practices and any interventions throughout the year with the intent to increase academic achievement. And the second goal area in this particular goal is a comprehensive analysis of our title expenditures and our program effectiveness that we held throughout the year to increase and maximize our student achievement. Next slide, please. As we look at our progress here, I'm happy to report that we had 4 data chats with all of our principals this year, leading back to last summer. And so last summer was a summary of their year previous, and we had those data chats even with brand new principals to our school district because we wanted to make sure they understood what their data was and what that looked like and where our expectations lie for each and every school. And so we held that data chat, and then we've held 3 throughout the school year this year. The board received some backup information with some samples of what those look like, what our principals bring to us, and how focused they are on instructional strategies and what the data is telling them. The next principal data chat will be held next summer with the incoming superintendent and the team that he's put forward, and we look forward to this district continuing on with this accountability measure that our principals have completely embraced, and we are seeing evidence of those data chats in the practices that they are taking place in the school. Additionally, we shared with the board during the school year the redesign of iSchool and the fact that we took a hard look at our iSchool data, and that analysis showed us that what we were doing in iSchool was not being successful for the majority of our students. And so we have completely redesigned iSchool, and we look forward to that piece as well. For the second goal, as it relates to our title analysis, and looking ahead. During this year, we held thorough evaluations of our different title grants and their allocations. We've shared with the board on March 30th a very thorough presentation as it relates to our title analysis, which programs are being successful and which the programs that we're continuing, and hard conversations and facing the brutal facts, or as is said in the book Good to Great, confronting the brutal facts of those programs that aren't working, and throwing them out, quite honestly, and changing the mindset from we continue to do what we've done because that's what we've always done, to we work through programs and processes because they're successful and they show results. And so we've been very, very, very pleased with the success there. And then also, as we shared with the board, we are replacing the data specialists with kindergarten interventionists to bring down the number of students in each classroom in our title kindergarten classes. So we're very excited about that. As we look forward, we are incredibly excited about the Summer PLC Institute. You heard Ms. Cruz actually talk this evening about their focus on back to the 4 core questions of PLCs. We are going back to the beginning of PLCs with our principals and with some of our directors as they attend that PLC Institute this summer. And we are getting back to the core beliefs of what PLC truly is, answering the 4 critical questions and what that looks like in our classrooms. Additionally, we've talked extensively about Summer Workshop. I'm going to give everybody a teaser. There's another selfie video coming out from the superintendent on Monday where Summer Workshop will be discussed again. But we're excited to tell you that we set a goal. We set a goal of having 65% of our returning teachers attend Summer Workshop, with a hopeful stretch goal to get 75%. And as of today, we have 80% of our returning teachers who have signed up for Summer Workshop. And that work is so incredibly important to the success of this district. This district is about to absolutely launch forward academically, and I look forward to seeing that happen. And then additionally, we're going to continue our evaluation and effectiveness of our title programs. We have some changes that we have put in place. Some of them are quite substantial, and we will work to evaluate that throughout the course of the year to make sure that we stay on target and that what our programs and personnel are doing are successful. Next slide, please. The second goal in our school district is related to culture, and the 2 goal areas that we set with the board this year are an increase in attendance by our HR team at recruiting fairs in order to recruit and hire our staff, and then the second goal being the fact that we wanted to increase the number of people who take advantage of our employee referral program, because we'll actually pay you a referral bonus for folks if you could help us get them hired into our school district. And so if we can go to the next slide, we are excited to tell you that we have increased from 4 career fairs to 10 this year. Additionally, our job postings are becoming more efficient in terms of the programs that we're using. They're posted automatically on LinkedIn, SchoolSpring, and Indeed. We've hired 809 applicants from last July through April the 10th. We're working very hard on consistent communication coming out of our HR team. And as we've shared with the board, we extended our wellness focus this year to include a financial wellness component as well. And that's going quite well, actually. Our staff is very pleased to have that piece. The other thing that I would remind the board of, and we've said this previously, is that we had a record number of teachers and administrators return their contracts this year. And so we're very pleased for that and look forward to great success next year. The second goal area, in terms of really helping our staff help us and help our district, we have increased from 50 employees taking advantage of that employee referral piece last year to 117 through April 11th this year. And just a PSA again to all of our staff, a reminder that you can get a referral bonus if you help us hire folks and they stick around for a while. So our best recruiters are those who work for us, and we want to reward them for their endeavors. The next goal, please. By the way, if you're keeping track, that's completion of goal 1 and full completion of goal 2 as well. So goal 3 is our safety goal. And the 2 goal areas for me in this area are that we would refit or retrofit all of our front office lobby areas in every district facility with security barriers and bullet-resistant glass to limit the flow of traffic into our schools, and to harden the front offices. The second goal area was that we would complete a comprehensive school safety audit program, and that we would really work to analyze and maximize all safety measures on all of our campuses. Next slide, please. As we have shared multiple times throughout this school year with the board and our community, safety is a very big focus for us. We are spending more than $4 million this year on safety and safety initiatives. I am very pleased to announce that all school sites have completed the retrofit of their front offices, as well as the district support facility. We have one facility that is in progress now and is scheduled to be completed in the next few weeks, and that will complete all of our facility retrofits for goal number 1. For goal number 2, the board has heard extensive information as it relates to our safety measures, our safety plans, and the focus areas of our safety, including very specific information shared with the board in the last board meeting during executive session. To date, 120 plus inspections and audits have occurred on our campuses throughout the district, with really increased focus on risk management. Emergency drill audits, we've shared with the board the feedback forms that Mr. Yeager provides to the school sites after the audits, so making sure that we are using timely information to get back to our schools to reflect and make any changes that they need. We've also spoken to the board about the very extensive audits and the audit process that we have created, and I'm excited to announce to the board that our first school site extensive audit occurred today, and we look forward to that process continuing moving forward. Additionally, we have worked very hard with our school administration, and they in turn with their school staffs, on trainings, consistent updates, and tabletop scenarios that are part of our district leadership meetings in each and every opportunity that we have to work with our leadership. We're very proud of the progress that we made in the safety area, and in terms of goal 3 completion, check. Our final goal for the year, next slide please. Our last goal is resources, understanding that the resources that we have in this district are from our taxpayers, and it is our responsibility to be incredibly frugal and incredibly responsible with those tax funds that we get. We want to make sure that we are maximizing every opportunity that we have at our discretion to make sure that our facilities are in top form, and at the same time respect the taxpayer funds that we use. And so the 2 goal areas that we had for this school year is by the end of this school year that we would increase the amount of grant funding that we received for maintenance and upkeep of our district facility from the previous year, as well as decreasing the number of bus inspection infractions that we had from the previous year. And we wanted that to be less than 25% of our total school buses. Next slide, please. As you can see, goal number 1, as of April 11th, there have been 36 approved school facility board projects that have been grant funded by the school facilities board. That means they're outside of our funding. We got additional grant funding for that, with a total of $14.1 million. Last year, we received about $2 million in those grants. So we increased our grant funding to $14.1 million this year. Again, an increase of $12 million more than next year. Dr. Croto, good luck beating that. Goal number 2 for this year, we wanted to decrease the number of DPS major inspection infractions with our buses. As you can see, this year we had 8.9% of our buses that had major inspection infractions when they were inspected by DPS. Last year, we had 21%. The year before that, it was at 50%. And so we're very excited about the focus on safety with our bus crews. And I want to just give a huge shout out to our automotive team at the bus yard, because this reflects on them, and they do a tremendous job. Looking forward in terms of our resources and making sure that we are absolutely responsible and transparent, we've frozen 14 district positions for next year, which accounts to about $600,000. Am I correct in that Ken, because I know I like to say 1.6 million, but it's actually 600,000, right? It accounts for about $600,000 that we identified in terms of funding that we can reallocate to different areas in the district. And so we're very, very excited about that as we move forward. Next slide, please. As I finish my report this evening, I'm very proud to report to the governing board that this team, this cabinet team, has worked hand in hand on a daily basis to accomplish the goals that we set forth with the governing board. And I am very proud to say, and I believe that I would only walk away with the district being in the shape that it is today. This district is set on a path for incredible success. I don't say I'm proud very often, but I'm going to say it one time because, you have to excuse me, it reflects a value that my father instilled in us. And that is, my dad said to us, always leave someplace better than you found it. And I think, and I hope, and I pray that I did that in the course of 18 years. And I think that in this school year, we've worked incredibly hard to put this district on an incredible journey that will be very, very successful moving forward. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I like those guys.
Thank you, Dr. Dean, for that presentation, and thank you for all of your service. I know you and your team you hit the ground running and you never really stopped. Your team as well have worked really hard with the inclusion of Miss Bowen over there, who's also worked very hard. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate the evidence that you've provided us, and thank you for your hard work.
Echo that as well. Thank you for sharing all the hard work, obviously, that you and your team have been engaged in. Just specifically want to mention what you had said regarding evaluating programs. Thank you for that, because you're right. It seems like we were, for a while, just doing what we were used to doing, using programs that we just always used, not really taking a lot of time, I found, to actually say, are they producing the results we want them to? Are they moving students forward? And I really saw you take great focus in doing just that, and really taking the time to evaluate and change things up as you saw fit. Which clearly, with even just 3 of the schools that we heard from tonight, are showing great results. So thank you for that. I didn't realize that your goal for summer workshop was so much lower than the 80%. To see 80% of staff attending speaks to how you've been able to engage staff and get them to jump behind you and your vision, and that speaks to your leadership. The fact that there was a record number of staff returning contracts, that again speaks to your leadership. And sadly, if you remember, when you came on board, it was going to be so many people leaving in droves, in mass exodus. I keep forgetting the word, sorry. And instead, record numbers returning, more than we thought would come to summer workshop. And again, this was you and your team and your vision and the hard work you put behind it. You put us back on track when it comes to accountability and academic success, something that I think we weren't driving as hard as we should have been. And thank you for kind of reviving that focus for us, and bringing, again, just that that collaboration, the increased culture, just the cohesiveness of all of our teams. And I know that you'll say it, so I'll say it for you. I understand it's also cabinet as well, and even beyond that, our teachers and staff. But again, your vision, and you only started officially in October. So all of this occurred in less than 1 academic year. So absolutely, I believe you're leaving this district in a much better place than it was when you began. And I really thank you for that.
Ditto on everything. I know that it was mentioned about the employees returning contracts, but on your goal B, there were 117 employee referrals. That also speaks volumes. not just of your leadership, but all cabinet, and to your vision, as Ms. Pritchard said. I have absolutely been blown away by your leadership. And just a renewed focus on the academics, a renewed focus on safety, and just a renewed focus on what really matters, which is our students. And just want to say thank you.
I also say ditto on everything. Only being on the board a few months, I am absolutely blessed to be here. Sorry, I've been probably cried. But your leadership and this administration has really been phenomenal to work with. I can go to anybody and ask questions, and you're there to answer them. So thank you. Thank you for everything. And these numbers speak volumes of the hard work, dedication that everybody has put in since I've been here that I've noticed. It's been absolutely wonderful to work with everybody, and I'm very excited to continue this journey with you guys. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to item H1. Dr. Dean.
Madam President, members of the governing board, I would be proud to present this recommendation. However, I feel it appropriate for next year's superintendent to do so, and so I'm going to turn this to Dr. Croto.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Madam President, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, administration is proud to present a recommendation for the Assistant Superintendent of Support Services. This individual is with us currently, and it's Mr. Craig Musey. He's here tonight with his fiancee, Anat. So just some before you move on and vote. As you know, Craig is right now is the Director of Student Services. He's done a wonderful job for us this year. Craig comes to us with a wealth of experience in administration. Just to outline some stuff, Craig was obviously a teacher before he started, but then in Glendale Union became a curriculum coordinator, became the lead curriculum coordinator, was an assistant principal, was a principal of one of their high schools, went on to become the administrator of federal programs, then became the associate superintendent of curriculum instruction. And then Craig decided to join us, which we were very fortunate to have him come and work as the Director of Student Services in our district for the past year. So it is our pleasure to recommend to you Mr. Craig Musey for the position of Assistant Superintendent of Support Services for next year.
Thank you, Dr. Croto. Do we have any questions? Okay, I will move to approve the appointment of Craig Musey as Assistant Superintendent of Support Services.
Second.
Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Don Densmore. Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Musey. Next, we will move on to item H2. Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, cabinet, and our community. Mr. Hicks will briefly present information on this item.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Dean, colleagues, and community members. I'm happy to present this agenda item for approval. This is a little bit different, a little bit new, so just a little bit of background. This is the fourth year that we've received, that Dysart has received results-based funding. Each year we've been doing a stipend-based, and I know there's another agenda item regarding our stipend distribution next, but currently this is a different part of that. So we've been providing stipends for the last 4 years. We do not use up all the money. We are required to spend a majority of the funds at the site. And so we've been meeting that, but we've been carrying forward a balance. And so the balance has grown, and coming into this year is about $800,000. Anticipated by the end of this year will probably grow to about $1.5 million. And so a couple of months ago, We asked Ed Services team to get together and say, how can you leverage this funding and kind of program it to get the best impact out of it to improve student achievement. And so they did a great job. I think that was a couple months ago, and came back with some recommendations, and then they kind of listened to the governing board study session and took a little bit from that as well and put together a final recommendation to use that. And so this is the result of that work of putting together a plan, and they've come up with 5 options. And so as identified in the agenda item, the 5 are to hire an additional kindergarten teacher at Freedom Traditional Academy, to hire up to 5 intervention specialists or TOSAs, teacher on special assignment, at Asante, West Point, Dysart Middle, Thompson Ranch, and Riverview, to provide a PLC consultant from Solutions Tree to service all schools throughout the district, hire 3 EL instructional specialists to provide support at title schools, and to provide training for our countryside staff to implement the Spalding pilot in our kindergarten. And so this is anticipated to use about $1 million of it. Not all of it will continue, so this is not this is all one-time money we're talking about. And so the thoughts were we are going to evaluate and ensure that these are effective and having the impact that we want. There's some other other criteria that we have to manage. That's really a business side of it. Qualifying schools versus non-qualifying schools. There's a time element commitment within it. It does have to follow under the guidelines of what is recommended, and so our business department has worked with our ed services to make sure they're all in alignment with that, and so that is our recommendation for these 5 options for next school year. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Do we have any questions? Okay, I will move to approve the program utilizing results-based funding for fiscal year 2024. Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Joe Grant. Motion carries. Thank you. We will move on to item H3. Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Cabinet, and our community. This evening, we bring forward a recommendation to use the other aspect of results-based funding to distribute to the stipend list provided to the Governing Board in the packet. 2 years ago is the first time that our school district qualified for results-based funding. I'm sorry, 4 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. 4 years ago, we qualified for results-based funding, and the stipends that we are asking to be supported this evening with this recommendation are paid for results that occurred 2 years ago. And so the results-based funding, we receive 2 years in arrears to be able to pay back. And so this evening, we are recommending that we pay the stipend list for the positions that were identified a few years back for this particular distribution. I would like to let the Governing Board know as well that Cabinet will be working to bring forward a recommendation to the Governing Board of how to best utilize these funds moving forward into the future. And so Cabinet will be working on that. I anticipate, well, I guess I could guess because I won't be here. I think that they're going to bring it forward in like July or August. But I believe that, I know that Cabinet is working on a recommendation of how best to utilize these funds from a program perspective. But we felt it important to honor the commitment that was made to these particular groups a couple of years ago, since we're paying back 2 years, and then beginning to move forward, put a plan in place that everyone understands in terms of program changes. And so our recommendation this evening is approval of the stipend list provided to the Governing Board.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Do we have any questions?
Well, I have to say, I did ask for this to be tabled and brought back, and I am disappointed that you've decided not to make any changes. I've heard it several times tonight about not continuing to do things because we've always done them, and that, to me, is what we're still doing. We're continuing to do that, and I realize this is from 2 years ago, but again, I still wish it would have been reevaluated. I appreciate the fact that you are going to look at it for the future, and I hope that we include some other areas that are close to the classroom, but not just in the classroom, but that do in their jobs help with student outcomes and student achievement.
Is there any position in particular that is concerning that's not on this list?
Special ed.
There are special ed preschool facilitator, ESS behavioral technician.
Special ed in general was the ones I really wanted to. And then I found out. And then I'm sorry, I'm not really, student support technicians, but they weren't around 2 years ago. So that was one, but I didn't realize it wasn't there 2 years ago.
And Ms. Grant, I will tell you that that following the tabled motion, that Cabinet did work to analyze that, and as stated previously, and I understand the disappointment, and thank you for letting us know that and voicing that. Our decision was, because it was 2 years ago, as we said, however, with the commitment that we will look at how this program moves forward for the future.
And just so I'm clear, are these monies are to go to people who are actually working in the classroom, correct? That
Madam President, Ms. Pritchard.
Or have a direct impact on.
Yes, and these were identified several years ago, which is why we chose to honor that commitment to those pieces as we move forward. I will tell you that we have a responsibility with these funds that if people that were in those positions at those schools 2 years ago are still in the school district, even if they're in a different position, they qualify for the funding for this stipend.
Right, because the gifted one is no longer a position, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
That's one example. The gifted technology.
Yeah, so if they're still in the district in another position, we would capture them and they would receive the stipend as well.
Well, I imagine it's very hard. I mean, you can't give it to everybody, and it's not to say not everyone has positive impacts on children, but these monies are very specific, and I think once we start splitting them too much, I mean, these look to me like they're focused on where they need to be. I mean, I guess we'll have that conversation at another time, but we can't just give it to everybody.
And Madam President, Member Pritchard, completely understand the comment, and that's where Cabinet's analysis will continue to move forward, and there will be a different recommendation in the future.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, I will make the motion to approve the results-based funding stipend distribution for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Christine Pritchard. Motion carries. Next, we will move on to I-1, request for future agenda items.
I have one. I would like, just because, and I'll send an email, I guess, getting specific, but I would like to have an information item that reflects whatever evaluation we've been, either evaluation or assessment of our athletic program, since athletics is one of our 3 A's. And where we've looked at our academics and how we're growing, our arts programs and how we're growing through like art steals and things. Just as far as athletics, I just want to make sure that if that is going to be our focus, that we ensure that we have a culture, a winning culture, and we have coaches that are successful for the sake of our students who rely on our programs for athletic scholarships, or just parents who contribute a lot of money into a sport or activity and want their child to have a great experience under proper coaching. So if we can just at some point, similar to like the CIPs we do for academics, just kind of an update to the board on a pulse on our athletic program district-wide.
Member Pritchard, we can certainly do that. Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we have a call for an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 for the superintendent's year-end evaluation. I move to establish executive session to be held immediately during a recess in the regular meeting. Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Joe Grant. Motion carries. We will adjourn. We will head to executive session. Awesome. Okay, at this time, we will reconvene the regular meeting. And I will make the motion to approve the superintendent's year-end performance evaluation and performance pay in the amount of 20%, reflecting the superintendent has satisfactorily achieved the approved goals for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Christine Pritchard. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
At this time, I will move to adjourn the meeting. Motion made by Crystal Chaffin, seconded by Joe Grant. Dawn, don't vote no.
She'll lose. She'll lose vote anyway. She won't have the numbers.
Motion carries. We are